gentlemen, welcome to the Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast. I am, of course, Nick McDaniel, and as always, I am joined by my buddy Byron.
Joining you for another episode of the Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast. I am so glad to be here.
I'm glad you're actually here, because this shit would be boring all by myself.
Well, fuck, we'd just stand around and talk about wrestling all the time anyway. Oh, hold on. That's how this wound up happening. We were just sitting in your basement talking about wrestling, and it became our most successful show on YouTube.
Very much so, man. Yeah, absolutely. Anything fresh before we get jumped in, or should we jump?
No, I was enjoying the talk about air fryers. I'm going to have to try that. This sounds good. I like to experiment with cooking here lately. I'm going to have to do some things with my health, I assume.
Yeah, so what he's referring to is, so before we went on, instead of talking about championships and promotions and stuff like that, we were discussing air fryers. And, you know, a good place to drop that conversation for air fryers would, of course, be over at patreon.com/tappedoutpod. We could have all kinds of conversations about the brands we use of air fryer, recipes, and all that good stuff. And,
email us for all cooking tips on Patreon.
Yeah, patreon.com/tappedoutpod.
Maybe a cooking show's in order.
Maybe a cooking show, reactions to food. Maybe we become a food testers. Now that the YouTube thing's working, you never know, man. There's all kinds of channels that we could open up. I think me sitting at a table filming you, like, doing food tests for, like, wings or nachos or burgers or stuff like that. But if we do this keto thing, then that's going to completely screw up.
I can eat a lot of wings still.
That is true. As long as you don't do the breaded ones, you're safe there. That is actually, you are correct.
Amen. I've studied on this.
Yeah, but man, without further ado, hey, we want to encourage you guys. You know, I know we're over on YouTube now, and of course, hey, we want to thank you guys. Blew up on Spotify. I don't know what the hell.
Smashing success on Spotify.
Yeah, so I think a lot of people that were watching us over on the book have now, I can say it. See, I can't break the habit. I can say Facebook. Like a lot of those people, I was worried they were going to move to YouTube or weren't what they were going to do, but Spotify blew up big time. So kudos, and we appreciate you guys checking us out, because we always encourage you to subscribe somewhere. Apparently, Spotify's a good place for lots and lots of people.
Are there words we can't use on YouTube? Have we
No, that's the crazy thing. That was the other thing I wanted to be, like, I was so happy about making that move, is there's no buzzwords we're not supposed to. As long as you don't use copyrighted content, you're good to go. You can do pretty much kind of whatever you want to do. So
I can't sing any known songs.
Yeah, but we still want you to continue. The whole point of that conversation was keep sending your questions to tappedoutpod@gmail.com. Easy for me to say. Again, tappedoutpod@gmail.com. We appreciate all the questions because we keep rolling, man. It makes the job so much easier here at the show. So without further ado, let's jump right into the first one, man.
Our friend from West Valley City, Utah. Don't know anything about the state of Utah. Who would you want to see in the Royal Rumble? Now, this is people who have not been declared yet in the Royal Rumble. Who are you thinking about, Nick?
We bounced this back and forth. So, like, look, Moose being rumored, like, I would like to see that. I know they haven't, confirmed that, but they rumored that one to death. That would be just kind of cool since you've already got Mickey included.
Yes.
The obvious pick for me is hopefully Bailey's healthy enough.
Yes.
And she makes like a big triumphant return. She was at the Cowboy game with Sheamus this past weekend. So hopefully she's heading down that path. I'd love for her to be back.
Yeah, she'd help out a lot. What about our favorite movie and television star?
Well,
John Cena.
Yeah, John Cena would be a cool one. I mean, to say the least. But look, we get it. It's not going to happen, but we can always dream, right, that we get that.
But he's got something he'd like to promote.
Yeah, but he can't really promote it if he's just a surprise in the Rumble. But I just think it would be fun just to see him pop up.
Yes.
And do his thing.
You think Brock is going to be in the Rumble?
So here's the thing.
Really?
Here's why I think that it's a possibility. And do I think it's likely? No, but possibility, yes. So Roman and Brock, everybody's still all roads still point that those two are going to face at WrestleMania. But they want to do away with title versus title. I don't think they want to book themselves into that corner. So I could see, like, because you've got Roman's wrestling Seth, Brock's wrestling Lashley. So how do we because you got to get one of the belts off of one of the two of them. My logic would be if you have Lashley beat Brock, maybe because of interference by Paul Heyman or not by point. I'm sorry, by MVP, or if he, or does Roman get involved?
Yeah.
Do that earlier in the night before the men's rumble, and then turn around and have Brock enter and win, so he can challenge Roman and face him for that belt. I mean, it's a long shot, but it's
so if you're going to work on the card, you're going to go with something like open with a women's rumble, then Brock and Bobby.
I mean, there's other stuff you can put in there. You can put like RK Bro versus Alpha Academy, then Brock. You know what I mean? I'd say go early.
Well, then that would give you the push to go ahead and get that guy out and then have him come in as a late entry into the rumble. Okay, that's plausible.
Myron, they've opened with, how many times have they opened with the world title match? Because you've got
they're doing whatever they want to now. They're booking it whatever they want to, because it's not about drawing a crowd. It's just about entertaining a crowd.
Sure.
They're not booking with a standard Toots Mop formula, where you go ahead and sell tickets and you have your main event and then sell tickets at halftime or intermission.
Yeah, I think it would be a cool concept, but it'd be a little different. But I think overall, let's be blunt, Bayley's that's who I think we both really want to see.
Yes, it's time to have her back. She's so talented.
Absolutely.
And here is another good question. Braden from Scottsdale, Arizona. Now, this is something that's been a bit of a hot topic. What do you think of the WWE's comments about AEW and its gory mutilation? And why don't we see that on WWE, NXT, Raw, and SmackDown? Well, I'm going to start this one more time before we start into this question. How do you feel about these promotions talking about each other like this now?
I mean, it's become the norm. I mean, I honestly I thought it was dumb for WWE to even to comment it on in general. Like, I got what they were trying to say, but I've said, AEW for one needs to just quit. Just leave it alone. And I think WWE needs to do the same. WWE needs to worry about who they, listen, Monday Night Football's over, folks. This is their window to get back into the game.
Yes.
And really make a push and get their ratings back up, or whatever you want, if that's what they're worried about. And AEW just needs to focus on AEW, because they ain't catching. They're a far distant number 2, to the point that they just need to get, they need to be them and do the best them.
So what are we referring to?
So there was a quote, and I actually put it down on my notes so I wouldn't mess it up. It was, if you look at the gory self-mutilation that bloodied several women on the December 31st event on TNT, it quickly becomes clear that these are very two different business. They're discussing WWE versus AEW. WWE stated, "We had an edgier product in the Attitude Era, but in a 2022 world, we don't believe that type of dangerous and brutal display is appealing to network partners, sponsors, venues, children, to the general public as a whole." And I agree. I mean, it stupid, but I do.
So this was basically an adult program. It was broadcast after 10 o'clock on a Friday night. Everybody knew it was coming. And it was a bloody death match type thing. It was a hardcore street fight, basically. And if you haven't seen it, I recommend watching it. But it was a bit much. When it gets a little bit much for me, that's when I start saying, maybe it's not general public.
I never have any qualms with tough, hard fought battles, especially when. Look, I get this. What I'm about to say, it's a me problem. I fully put that out there first when I say that, bloody women's matches make me uncomfortable. I don't say I don't like in the sense I do. They just make me feel uncomfortable a little bit. And maybe, guess what? That may be the purpose. So they may be doing exactly what they want. But even men's matches, to a degree, I just don't know that if it's not like the big, huge blow off, I just don't think blood's necessary.
Gusset plates. A random match without build up, and you start hammering gusset plates into somebody's forehead. Not necessary.
Right.
No, if you're gonna have a bloody match on a WWE show, typically it's going to be a pay-per-view where technically you have paid to see it. Special. It's not on network television. And you build to the match, so it's a payoff of a feud. And I can see a payoff to a feud being a rough, hardcore street match, maybe some blood, things like that. because it builds to that, and that's what you're anticipating, and that's what you came for. But I can't see this in just a general match. I know this was a build-up match. I know they had this coming. They had a previous match. They were rivals, but it was just on a Friday night, and it was a pre-tape. So you had the chance to get this the way you wanted it. And the women aren't used to bleeding. You can clearly tell. Bunny, if that was a blade job, she really bladed. If not, she dumped a bucket of pig's blood on her head because she was covered.
Blood, yeah, there's a lot. And, and maybe that's just it. I mean, goes back to what I say, like, even maybe, look, but that's maybe why I'm not a big deathmatch guy. Like, I appreciate people that do, whatever, that's their thing.
Some people watch German pornography.
There's niches within,
Yes.
So that's okay. And I'm cool with all that. I mean, I'm just saying, but like, I think at the core, did people probably take it a little deeper than it, like, the point was, it wasn't them knocking a bloody match. It was just saying on a network, product.
Yeah.
It was probably more than, I think they were trying to say that advertisers, networks, and stuff might have a problem with that, which is probably true.
Well, think about when they ran this show. This show was December 31st. It was up against Georgia and Michigan on a playoff game. It was up against all the rockin' New Year shows because it started at 10 o'clock. It was a 10 to 11 show. They had their backs to the wall. They had to present some content, and they got this thing going, and they did it. And people knew it was coming. So I think they built this show. Maybe they could have hot shot it a little bit to get people to watch it. It did not succeed. So maybe they've learned their lesson. Maybe they're not going to do this again.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, but look, it's just something, like I said, I don't know that we necessarily disagree or agree with. It's just, I understand where they were, but like, I understand like AEW, this is the route they're going to go. But I also, what the point WWE was trying to say was like, hey, this is probably like, this is not what we would do, with our network partners and advertisers and venues, etc. So it makes sense. It's just two different trains of thought, I think, is a big,
publicly traded company, privately traded company.
Sure. That happens, man. There's always more than one way to skin a cat, right? That's what we always say. Yes. And we can agree that we're going to do it different ways. But let's, before we move on, we want to take a second, like, look, the holidays, man, lots of people struggle during the holidays. Lots of things go on. The big thing we always try to tell you is make sure you find a way to take care of yourself. And one way is our friends over at BetterHelp.com. Is something preventing you from achieving your goals? What interferes in your happiness? Check out BetterHelp.com/listener. BetterHelp will assess your needs and match you with your own licensed professional therapist. Connect in a safe and private online environment that is so convenient. You can start communicating with one in under 48 hours. It's not a crisis line. It's not a self-help line. It's a professional counseling done securely online. Send a message to your counselor at any time. You'll get timely, thoughtful responses, plus you can schedule weekly and video and phone sessions, all without ever having to sit in an uncomfortable waiting room. BetterHelp is committed to facilitating great therapeutic matches so they make it easy and free to change counselors if needed. It's more affordable than traditional online counseling, and financial aid is even available. The service is available for clients worldwide. Find the particular expertise you need online, and don't limit yourself just to counselors located in your near area. Licensed professional counselors who are specialized in things like depression, anxiety, relationships, stress, sleeping, trauma, anger, LGBT matters, family conflicts, grief, self-esteem. Anything you share is confidential. It's convenient, it's professional, it's affordable. If you don't believe me, and you don't want to take my word, check out the testimonials posted daily on their site. Remember, it's not a crisis line. In fact, so many people have been using BetterHelp that they are recruiting additional counselors in all 50 states. I want you to start living a happier life today. As a listener, you'll get 10% off your first month by visiting our sponsor over at betterhelp.com/listener. Join over 1 million people who have taken charge of their mental health again. That is at BetterHelp, H-E-L-P, BetterHelp.com/listener. Well, all right, man. So we're hoping you take care of yourself on more. But speaking of health, man, on the medical side of it.
Yes, a fresh medical question here for us, of your highly advanced staff of the Tap Out Wrestling Podcast. Keyshawn from Stockton, California. What do you think of Corey Graves being cleared to wrestle? What do we think about Corey Graves being cleared to wrestle? Corey Graves, W commentator, apparently had a NXT career started, and was not able to continue due to injury. And so now we have him back.
Yeah, man. The first, I guess, I want to ask, man, when you talk about guys like Corey Graves, Bryan Danielson, Edge, Christian, Nikki Bella, etc., and on, all these people that literally were told their careers were over, and now they're going to get a shot to come back. Like, is this a testament? What is this a testament? I had two questions, actually. I think to ask this. Is it a testament to medical, technology that we've come this far? Two, or did it just say just a long break like that, actually the body just had time to heal?
Well, we have better nutrition. We have better exercise. We have better medicine. Everything is considered so advanced now that people I would assume have better chances. They know more. They're not doing that headbutt that Harley Race and Chris Benoit did. That's not happening anymore. You're not seeing people take these blows to the head, unprotected chair shots, those kind of things. I think wrestling is improved. Wrestlers are smarter. Wrestlers are more informed. The medical people associated with wrestling are more informed. I think it's wonderful to see people getting cleared like this, but why? Why?
Well, now I get the why risk it, right? Somebody like Daniel Bryan, Edge, Christian, and Nikki, like they've reached the mountaintop in the past, like they've been champions, etc. So for them, you would think it's just got to be for the sheer passion of it. Like they just love wrestling, the high of the crowd. You always hear about that, like the rush of just especially look. And I get it. I'm specifically talking about if you've wrestled in WrestleMania in front of 80,000 people. Is there any? I mean, like everybody talks about, there's not a high that's that it's just something you can get. Corey, I understand. Corey never had a WrestleMania moment as far as in ring. That clearly that was his dream, and it was taken from him by injury down in NXT. So I kind of get the understanding of like, hey, if I can do this, like maybe he wants a Rumble moment, or if it's a WrestleMania moment of some kind. Like I can understand that at least.
I would have to have experienced something like that to be able to compare it, and I never have. So I'm kind of speaking out my ass on this, but I would personally rather continue to walk and have sex with Carmella than be able to have a wrestling moment.
Well, like I think as long as he's careful and there's always a risk. But yes, I know what you're saying. Like, hey, you can stay. To me, I think he's probably the most consistent, commentator they have. Now, look, I love me some Pat McAfee. I think he's awesome. But as far as like Mr. Consistency, I think that probably goes to Corey Graves right now. So yeah, I get it. Like, hey, stay in your role, man, and live a long life. But like then again, man, sometimes just that bug calls, man, and you gotta want to do it. So who knows, man? But kudos, and hopefully, if he does give it a try, we hope we wish him the best and hope he stays healthy.
And it's Rumble season, Nick, and this is our favorite pay-per-view.
Yeah,
Royal Rumble's always been our favorite pay-per-view. Surprises happen. So, and the weird part about that is we learned some very odd information this week. And our friend Cooper from North Hempstead, New York asks, what is your take on the Cody Rhodes rumors about his contract with AEW being expired? Cody Rhodes is working on a handshake deal with the second biggest wrestling company in the world, a company he had a integral part in starting. Executive Vice President Cody Rhodes does not have a contract.
I think this is the biggest rumor about nothing.
Is it just a publicity stunt?
Here's my take. It could probably have. There's a layer of truth probably in here, but again, it goes back to I think it's the biggest rumor about nothing. Um, I think when I say that, like it's a technicality. Maybe his contract's up, but maybe he's working like you said. Is it a handshake deal, a letter of intent deal, where it's like, hey, I'm gonna resign. They've got some basic parameters. Maybe they're like, how you always hear like, oh, such and such player signed for X amount of money, but then it's always like a week later before they actually sign the contract because they've got to hash out all the little like clauses the team wants, and then the player's attorney's like, no, you're not going to put that one in there, and they kind of go back and forth. So like it could be something as simple as Cody's already maybe agreed to dollars in like years, but maybe there's other little things he wants in there, and they have.
Well, it's got people talking. It was hot news. It was a week of surprises, but being Royal Rumble season. So I think this is a great time to have a rumor like that. I hope it's not a bad sign for AEW. World will only know. Where do you look for?
But listen, I'm going back to this. He left WWE for a reason. That reason's gotten worse, by what people's opinions are than it was then, right?
Yeah.
So why would he go back? I mean, I never say never. I just don't really see it happening. But that's just me personally. That's just my opinion.
Fair enough.
So, but the funny thing is, if you look across the internet, man, at all of the major wrestling websites, they'll all tell you he didn't have a deal, look out for him. But at least they have websites. Because if you don't, you need to check out our friends over at pair.com. If you have a business, you need a website. What's the best way to get a website up and running? Choose a website hosting company that makes it simple, like Pair Networks. Pair has over 20 years of experience managing the entire digital ecosystem for thousands of online businesses all around the world. Pair makes it easy for you with do-it-yourself website building tools and features, including simple drag-and-drop page design. And they've guaranteed US-based support technicians ready to help you whenever you need it, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Right now, when you sign up with Pair Networks, you'll receive 1 free month of web hosting. See for yourself how easy it is to build your website for free. Visit pair.com/free to get your first month of web hosting for free by using the code QUICKSTART. That's pair.com/free, promo code QUICKSTART to get started today. All right, man. Well, there's plenty of stuff that's got the internet a-buzzing, but our old buddy Double J's got some, which leads us to our next question.
Yes. Our friend Sean from St. Petersburg, Florida. I wonder if the weather's better there. I know Nick is a big Jeff Jarrett fan, so I wanted to know what you think of his appearances in GCW.
Well, I'm glad old Double J's out there because, I mean, like I said, everybody knows that I love My World, his, the podcast he's got with Comrade. It's just off. So I'm psyched that he's coming out. He's going to get, and what I really, what impressed me the most is that not only is he coming to GCW to work, but he's chosen, and I'm sure he's had a complete hand in what he gets to do, what he's going to do. He's not going after a Matt Cardona right now. He's not. It's Effie. Like, it's somebody like, hey, I can do something with this and, give this guy some exposure and help maybe give him a little bit of a rub. That's what I'm excited about.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think it'd be great for. I think it'd be great for the whole promotion. We met him again at for the second or third time at WrestleCade. Always a absolute pleasure to talk to. Always one of the nicest people to deal with. Professional. I think wrestling needs more people like Jeff Jarrett. I think it needs people who have transcended more than one promotion. People who've been there and done that. It helps. And man, I can't wait to see this.
Yeah, and I agree with you, Myron, because I think where he's a positive for GCW is, look, the podcast. I think him plugging GCW gets some exposure. Yes. To an audience maybe that that likes Jarrett, but they don't know GCW. Maybe, who knows? Maybe they do. Maybe he can get in the back, and maybe he can benefit. Storytelling a little bit. Yeah. Maybe he gets into the back, and he's it's not his job, but maybe just listening to this guy, listening, the younger talents coming over and asking him, hey, this is what we're thinking about doing. Well, what would you do? So there's multitudes of ways that he can help. It's just funny, like, Effie's calling him out and challenging him. He's going to respond, of course, because that's what Doubleday would do. He's got the guitar involved, so you get a little bit of nostalgia on top of that.
Oh yeah.
Look, we all know that I'm a huge mark for Double J, but I personally think that GCW has lots and lots of upside to having him around, and lots of potential to do some good things, especially if he stays around for a little while. So
yeah. And I read the other day he has applied for trademarks on slap nuts as far as exercise bars, nut products, and things like that. I can't wait to get myself a nice fresh bag of slap nuts.
Exactly. Speaking of nuts.
Yes, our friend Evan from Frederick, Maryland. What do you guys think about the new Peacemaker show on HBO Max? Well, if you hadn't asked this question, Evan, I was going to talk about this anyway. Holy shit. That was fun. I don't need another Eternals movie, and I don't need another Shang-Chi where I have to think about a comic book superhero movie. I want to see a superhero blow people up with a magic helmet and hug eagles and make horrible jokes and curse and get women, even if they're aliens. I want this show.
Yeah. Dude,
wow.
It was fucking awesome. It was as crazy and as wild a ride as they come. It's funny, it's violent, it was funny because my wife's a big John Cena fan, and I watched this without her on purpose. She didn't like Suicide Squad because of how raunchy it was. So I'm okay, well, let me watch this and let me tell you, what I think. I watched these 3 episodes that they released and came back to her and said, yeah, you can't watch this.
Was it raunchy? Was it too raunchy for her?
Yeah. I was like, you're not going to be a fan of this whatsoever. But I tell you, here's the funny thing. Of all of the, hey, how violent, how rough, raunchy and all that kind of stuff was, it did flesh the character out more. Yeah. Like, he wasn't just the dick in Suicide Squad. I mean, you kind of figured out a little bit of why he is who he is.
Yeah, and it made it this was a...
Did it borderline humanize him?
Yes, and it humanized everybody. Everyone you dealt with in the series so far was very well written, very well acted. You had a diebeard. You had all these little things going on, and it felt like if superheroes were real, this would kind of be like this guy was the dick of the superheroes, and you can't imagine that there's not one. Is this
DC's answer to The Boys? Like, if there were superheroes, like, would this be what they were really like? They're not going to be really like Superman or Green, they're going to be kind of like, that's kind of always been, you know what? That's always I tell people. That's always been the appeal, I think, of Iron Man. Is he's a little more practical, very flawed.
The greater Iron Man was, the more flawed he was to make up for it. He was a very relatable character for a millionaire tech giant, if you can believe that. But I just enjoyed this. The Boys is good, but The Boys is 8 or 9 characters like this.
Yeah.
And some of them are evil. And John Cena is John Cena. I can't say he might be my favorite actor, Nick. I mean, if you're doing better than Boba Fett in my brain, shit.
That's a whole other conversation of flawed, that
I love that show. I don't care what people are saying about it. They can,
I'm digging it. Trust me. One of our buddies Kerry loves Star Wars stuff, and he's actually a huge fan. And I get it. I'm like, trust me, Kerry probably knows more about Star Wars than anybody I know, and that means everybody. That's Kitchens.
What about Kitchens?
No, I'm telling you, Kerry's like a figure collector. Like that's how deep he is into it, Mm-hmm. And I'm like, you're good, man. And plus, I promise you, he's seen them more than anybody because he's got all the time in the world to watch them. So we'll leave that as it is. But highly recommend Peacemaker. If you haven't seen it yet, you got to get past how raunchy. You got to get past it.
It's grown up.
I actually
my
don't know if I'd
kids would
use
probably
the word
watch it. I wouldn't know if I'd watch it with my kids.
Right.
18 and 21 though. My kids are adults.
Yeah. So,
and speaking of that, I mean, my daughter came down here last Saturday night and sat and watched some wrestling with me on Twitch. And we're going
yeah.
to talk about that in the Georgia Indy Talk.
Yeah, man. Lots of stuff to go through. Listen, let's get through the good, bad, however you want to take it, right? So, Friday, PCW canceled. Saturday, Southern Fried canceled because of the bad weather we had here in the Metro Atlanta area. Yes, it was bad enough. So good call.
Look, I'm from Alabama at best. So when you say bad weather, Myron's not leaving home. I hate it. I missed a lot of people. The people that are like posting pictures from backstage to two big shows, heartbroken for me that I did not get to see some of these people. But
listen, here's, we got to be fair. Like, when we come home from Canton, so like obviously the one we're discussing on Saturday night was Zicky Dice's Outlandish Paradise. But the time we typically leave a Canton show and we're heading back, it's 12, 1 o'clock usually before we're back. And that's kind of when they were talking about it starting to get bad, and just didn't want to take that chance because if they were off a little bit and we're there and it gets an hour earlier, then we're screwed, whatever. But here's the thing, like, look, we were glad to promote for weeks heading into, Zicky Dice's Outlandish Paradise. Kudos. The stream numbers were impressive.
Jesus Christ.
To the point that, like, I've already heard there's probably going to be another one.
That's awesome.
I was peeking in, and at a given time, they were knocking 20,000 people watching at one time. 350, but now that number's up to like 412, 415, somewhere in that range. The cameras they used, obviously you could tell they were going 4K cameras. The quality was superb. The filming, I think they did a lot of, the crowd did show up. Look, I know a lot of people were doom and gloom.
Very large crowd. And as somebody who's promoted a show in that building, you get nervous about a crowd coming, and I can only imagine the pit in your stomach when a crowd coming in snow and ice.
Well, I spoke to some people going in, like the few days going into the show, and I kind of had lost that concern because the numbers had done pretty well even before Gary did the promo and, et cetera. So I was really happy to hear they did really, really well as far as the attendance goes. So kudos to Zicky, man, and that whole crew up there. Congrats for pulling off a really good show.
Hat is off to you. You did more than just put on a good wrestling show, though. You put on a show for Twitch, and if they're going to do it again, they were satisfied with their investment. They had a lot behind that show. You could tell all the stuff they put into the show, the people they brought on. They brought on influencers that might not have been wrestling people, or I didn't recognize because I'm not a Twitch person at all. You had commentary on the whole show. I think it was well done. I think the breakout stars, Carly Bravo, Diana Michelle, and that little peckerhead Kenny Beckner.
I knew you were going to have to take a shot at old Kenny, but it's one of those things. I think that obviously it was geared for a Twitch thing. My only critique, and dude, listen, I would say this to Zicky, so they could ignore it, and they probably should, because I don't know what Twitch wanted. Right? That's the whole thing.
Yeah, they weren't making this for you.
Well, no, it's not. It wasn't even like a taste thing. Like the matches, I enjoyed. I had no qualms with the matches or any of that. The only thing I was saying is like it was geared towards a Twitch audience, and maybe not necessarily for the audience in the building. Like, I think they could have maybe, either sped up in between the matches, but I'm not really sure. Again, so see what I'm saying? Like, it'd be like, oh, I would have done this. Okay. But if they needed that time because they were doing what they were doing with the guys that were talking and all of that served its purpose, okay, then I'm wrong. So it's all a matter of, it kind of goes back to the like AEW, WWE debate, right? Like, if, I would want this, but if this is what the content they're looking for and this is what the service that you're providing it for, this is what they want, then do that and don't worry about what I said.
Yeah.
I would put less time between the matches as far as like, or do something in the venue itself to entertain the crowd that was there.
And they may have done that. We just didn't get to see it.
Nah.
My
I talked to people
daughter,
that were there yet.
okay, my daughter hates wrestling, and she enjoyed the Battle Royal.
Yeah.
Okay. She enjoyed the Battle Royal, sat here and talked to me, watched it together. Thank you for that. Thank you for giving me something wrestling to enjoy with my daughter. Uh, Great work. And Atlanta, what in God's name is going on? Now we have Terminus too. Woo.
And that's
Man.
different, man. It was something different for sure.
Yes, yes. You got wrestling. You didn't get sports entertainment. You got wrestling. You got wrestling with rules. Moose disqualified because he threw Mike Bennett over the ring ropes twice. You only get to throw somebody over the ring, and these are like, if we remember the when QT Marshall was going around doing the Watts rules.
Mm-hmm.
This is pretty much the same kind of rules. The Ring of Honor Pure Wrestling rules. It's grappling, it's wrestling, it's action. You saw what I would consider real strikes in a lot of these matches. Everything was good. Jonathan Gresham might be becoming one of my favorite wrestlers. The women tore it up. They had both of the women's matches were knockdown dragouts. Was it perfect? For a first show, I don't think it was bad. I think they need to polish it up a little bit as far as getting everything clicking on time, getting the people in non-wrestling roles communicating better. Once they get all the technology worked out and those, because it's hard to go live and do stuff like that.
Yeah. Would they be better served to be like a recorded product?
And I watched it recorded.
No, I meant.
And it wasn't edited. It was just the fight program.
What I'm saying though is, would they be better? Like, okay, so the next show, which we're going to jump out of order here, the next show's on a Thursday. Would they be better off to record the show on Thursday, edit it, and then drop it on that Saturday, like for fight?
I would think so. In the internet age, that's hard to say. I think they're going to get better as they practice and work through this. The venue is dark. I think they could have used a more pleasing venue, aesthetically pleasing venue. I think they could have ran it in the Action Building. I think they could have ran it.
You went straight to where I was going to ask you, because I will ask you this. Why do more promotions, look, Landmark is legendary for it, right? For running, multiple weekends or whatever. Why would more promotions not call up Gary Lamb and say, hey, can we rent the Action Building? Because can you imagine one weekend Southern Honor's there, another weekend Terminus is running there. You see where I'm going with this? Like multiple, like Zicky's, when he does his shows, he does them there. They have all the production you want. And now you can stream live from there.
Yeah,
they freaking did adequate. Twitch.
Yeah, they didn't. The feed was phenomenal. Very plausible. And you have a space disco, or whatever we call that.
Espacio Discotheque. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you for the translation.
But see, I don't even know what their capabilities are for streaming from there.
No.
But that's what I'm saying. So now that it can be done from the Action Building.
Yeah.
Why not?
I would consider the Action Building one of the premier wrestling destinations in Atlanta. Everything you need.
You can get not everything, and I don't want to hyperbole. I almost just jumped right into the well, right? But if you told me you can pay a fraction of what it would cost you to get, center stage or that, I bet you it was probably not as much as the Croc place was probably more. You call Gary up and say, hey, we want to go on a Friday night or whatever, and whatever, and book your building and pay you a couple $1,000s or whatever. Because center stage is like 6 or 7. I always hear some crazy number. Go a whole lot less. You can shrink those curtains in, pack that, to make it look like a good fit. You've got the screens, the sound, audio, and everything. You can make it look great, man, in that building.
Yeah, that's a definite possibility.
So anyway.
Definite possibility. I think you could do a lot. Wrestling in Atlanta is in a spot where we've got Terminus now, whatever Zicky decides to do with this Twitch program. We've got Championship Wrestling from Atlanta is going to come back as United Wrestling Network or something like
Maybe,
that.
who the hell knows? Right?
I don't know. I am waiting to make a statement because I don't know what's going on. NWA is in Atlanta. We've got premier independent wrestling promotions in Atlanta. Georgia right now, to me, is becoming to wrestling what it's become to hip hop and movie producing. It's the Hollywood of wrestling.
Is it becoming the epicenter of indie wrestling? Like, I mean, there's so much you can do here.
Yeah, and a lot of your AEW people are based out of here, live here full time.
That's my point. You need extras. You know, you need a guy to work for this and that. I mean, the Nightmare Factory's, you know, right now. And by the way, when we say Atlanta, I think we have to kind of forget like the spread here of the show. Like we're discussing like Metro Atlanta area. Like we're talking.
Yes, Metro Atlanta is about a third of the state of Georgia.
It kind of is at this point because you remember when we were. I don't know if you remember this because you said you came here for college. Like I remember being like 13. Like to us at that point, Atlanta was basically 285 and inside. That was kind of
by the time I got here, it was way past that.
Yeah, then it's like it stretched out, and it's like Alpharetta, you know, and then it's.
Well, we're in the suburbs. We're in the north suburbs, and we still live in Atlanta, basically.
Right. So, but yeah, there's so much I think going on, and when we say Metro Atlanta, kind of as the epicenter of wrestling, I mean, there's just so many independent promotions and stuff that run. I think possibly so. I think we're sometimes. How many times have we said that wrestling fans are spoiled, you know, here in the Metro Atlanta area because there's so many good promotions that run that you can just kind of and you can be to them all in the matter of an hour.
And these bigger promotions wouldn't be here if it weren't for those independent promotions who've been out there grinding for all this time. Your Southern Honors, your Southern Frieds, your Anarchies, the people that have been out there, your Action, and consistently putting out great wrestling content to make people like the NWA want to come here, to make Terminus the home. You know, Gresham and Jordan Grace live here.
Yeah, they
trained. He trained here under Mr. Hughes. Knows Dave Wills. Good God, if you don't know Dave Wills in Georgia wrestling, he's all of wrestling. To be honest with you, he's introduced me to everybody from Jeff Jarrett to Jesus Christ.
It's so hysterical. Like the other night, I got a phone call, and my wife and I'm like, "It's still," and she cut me like, "It's still real to me, Dave. I got you." Like, yeah.
Well, I was asleep when he called, and I regret now I haven't talked to him since because Lord knows what kind of wrestling information I found.
Exactly. But like I said, when you're talking about, think about this. We were talking about all this Atlanta, the training facilities that are all here, and even I guess when you say Georgia in general, because you got to think viral. You know, some people will go like, well, they're out of the reach of Metro Atlanta, so viral's over here. IWE's down in the Augusta area, KLT in the northwest corner, you know, and then there's even, you know, Action's kind of southwest of Atlanta, down that direction. And then, look, I mean, all the way up into the northeast Georgia mountains, you've got like APW and so the promotions literally spread off across. Mm-hmm. And, of course, Landmark's right up 985 for us. So there's just wrestling everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we may get spoiled. Absolutely. I would say the answer to that question is yes.
We are spoiled, and we're watching a revolution. To me, with Ring of Honor dissolved and working as I don't know what to call it. It's
a super indie at this point. It's a super indie, man.
To me, Atlanta is getting a lion's share of the talent and a lion's share of the promotions. We could see no telling what before it's all over. An NWA style territory, a big Georgia becoming a major wrestling territory, not in absence of AEW or absence of WWE, but with them.
Here's my only this would be my one critique of it, though. There's so much talent here between, you know, the talent that's here in Georgia, the Nightmare Factory, you know, WWA 4, Face to Face, you know, they got people that train up at Landmark. There are people that train up in Northeast Georgia. You know, they're like there's places everywhere, right? My challenge would be, and I think the biggest obstacle in Georgia indie wrestling is that lots of promotions use the same talents. It almost seems like on any given week, you can go to 2 different shows. Like one week, you go to one, and one week you go next. And we've done this where 80% of the wrestlers are the same wrestlers.
Yeah.
Is it time for promotion? Like, and here's the crazy thing, because everybody's like, oh, you don't want people to get booked. No, I want, like, kudos to somebody like David Ali, who's going to Florida. He's going to, out of state. Push the wrestler. Like, I challenged the Carolinas to book guys who are booked here. I challenged Georgia to go out and book a John Davis, who's based out of the Carolinas. Book, somebody like Ray Fury more, who's out of, Mississippi, that Louisiana, the Texas, that kind of thing. Like Cyrus isn't just a Georgia guy. He wrestles in Texas. He wrestles in, the Carolinas. He wrestles Japan, for crying out loud. I think ultimately that's my goal, to where I think guys need to be pushed and tested to go outside of Georgia. But I think the promotions need to, like, mix it up a little bit. And, like, if you hold your poster up one week and you see it looks similar to the one the week before, be innovative and, like, go out and, like, bring in some fresh blood, whether it be younger, older. And I'm not telling you to overpay and bring in, like, hey, pay $1,000 and bring in XYZ wrestler. I'm just saying, like, I think we need to mix it up a little bit so the cards don't all look the same. Agree or disagree?
It's a fair take. Yeah. I get what you're saying.
So, anyway, we would love to know your thoughts and opinions on that. You could always tappedoutpod@gmail.com. Let us know. You can always @tappedoutpod on, Twitter, is a good place to do that. Mm-hmm. As you can probably tell, we haven't moved completely away from Facebook, but messages there, dude, there's just so many that come in. Like, I'm bluntly honest, 90% of them I can't get through and get seen, so always tappedoutpod@gmail.com.
Yes.
And, of course, @tappedoutpod on Twitter is a good one. Those, because they notify me, and before I have 100 of them piled up, they notify me as they come in. But of course, as we appreciate everybody. Look, the transition has gone way better than we ever thought it would. So make sure you're not missing anything. You don't fall through the cracks. Make sure you're subscribing anywhere and everywhere. Obviously go to YouTube, click, subscribe to the to us on YouTube. Turn your notifications on, by the way. That's a huge thing, because then it'll notify you when the new episodes drop. Because as you probably noticed, I dropped some matches from Hell Freezes over.
Oh, those have done incredibly well.
Yeah, and I just want to, there's going to be other little things we're just going to start dropping, along the way. Apple Podcast, iHeartMedia, of course, Spotify. Again, kudos. We want to thank you guys for, killing it. Massively. I'm not going to give numbers, but massive jump for Spotify. I was like, Where did all the Facebook people go? Well, I guess Spotify would be my answer, folks.
Mm-hmm.
But, look, if you're subscribing, the best place to be is at patreon.com/tappedoutpod. Make sure you're subscribing there. You get everything early, some exclusive stuff. I'm going to start doing some live things. I want to start doing some live things like on our phones while we're making trips. Patreon.com/tappedoutpod. That's everything I've got this week, man. You got anything else before we, get to moving out of here?
No, I want to thank people for the response we've got. I want to thank people for going to these shows in the weather and letting these shows draw, and let people know that Georgia is the home of independent wrestling. Thanks everybody for listening. I think that's about all I've got, Nick.
Well, man, if I've got nothing and you've got nothing, man, what's the old saying, brother?
It's time to tap out.